Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're jumping back into Peter David's Maestro World War M series, to where the escalation of Maestro's savagery continues. But on top of that, with Maestro finally meeting Namor for the first time in decades, we also come to find out that Maestro, he remembers the Illuminati. And even though Maestro's perspective is missing a few details here and there, this didn't change how he was treated then, and he still feels some type of way about it now. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get your spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so with us jumping back into Maestro World War M, to where at this point not only have we discovered that Namor also wants to put a stop to Maestro, but then also that for some time at this point he's been gathering allies and assets to assist him to make sure that Maestro doesn't rise to power, or at least not any further than Maestro already has. But also to go a bit further into what we had seen with the Abomination, who had been awoken after the destruction of AIM's subterranean base, because when we follow him to the point of where he runs into Namor, and Namor takes the Abomination to Pacifica, and really at this point the Abomination, he just goes because he's still trying to figure out the world and what exactly is going on out here. But as he follows Namor to Pacifica, which for Namor is one of his many cities across the world, to where in this case Pacifica obviously is located in the Pacific Ocean. But with the Abomination coming down here and meeting Namor's wife and his son, it's here where we get a really good look at Namor's perspective as far as the state of the world, and also Maestro rising to power. Because for Namor and the people of his cities across the different oceans, when the humans had essentially wiped themselves out, a number of his cities were unbothered. And for Namor, this is one of those things to where you could say, like, yep, that's classic Namor. He could care less about what happens to the people on the surface world, which is something we've seen over and over again, with Namor refusing to help in a number of world-ending events. But in this case, I like how Peter David takes it a step further, because for Namor, when humanity had been wiped out, he had looked at it like, okay, well good, let's keep it that way. So really with Namor soliciting the help of the Abomination to stop Maestro, it really goes more along the lines of Namor not wanting humanity to return to their state of being the dominant species, which almost makes it seem like Namor wouldn't want this to happen regardless of who was trying to do it. And in this case, with it being Maestro, it just makes that task a million times harder, because Maestro's just not someone who could be either taken out or controlled that easily. But with Namor explaining much of this to the Abomination, it's also here where we had seen Namor reveal Jim Hammond, the android and original Human Torch, who Namor had staged to confront Maestro, given the intel that he was provided by Minister. And like we'd seen, this didn't go well, because the Human Torch hit Maestro with everything that he had. And with Hammond doing this and thinking it was a kill shot, which may have killed everything in his path except Maestro. But with this happening, this is when your Jim Hammond Human Torch, who again is your original Human Torch, he actually believed that he had killed Maestro, because with his Nova attack being the equivalent of just dropping someone in the sun, on that alone he just figured that there was no way Maestro could have survived this. So when we saw him take off, rather than him trying to escape, he had genuinely thought that he was done here, which for Jim nonetheless was a huge mistake, because when Jim not only fails at this attack, but he also heads out to the Pacific Ocean, as you would expect, he is followed by Maestro. And so for Maestro, unlike what we had seen with the Abomination who had to take this pill so he could breathe on the water, like Maestro, he doesn't need that. And this isn't something new for him, not with the creation of Maestro or even him taking over Banner like we'd seen in War and Pax. But instead we can even find this like in your mid to late 2000s, back in your Incredible Hulk issue 77 written by Peter David. Because it was at this time when we got the specific reasoning as far as how the Hulk breathes underwater. Because in this moment when we had seen the Hulk more or less discover how this had happened, and it's here we learned that it had come to the point where the Hulk's lungs had developed an emulsion process, because he discovered that his lungs had developed a gland that would allow the Hulk to let his lungs fill with water, to where then these glands would perform an oxygenated perfluorocarbon emulsion process, so that in his lungs these glands could just pull the oxygen out of that water. But then of course when he got on land, he had to let all of that out. So for Maestro, once again, like the days of him having to hold his breath underwater, those are far behind him. And as he follows the Human Torch, at this point not knowing where he's going, but as he follows the torch into the Pacific Ocean, this is where he discovers Pacifica. And for Maestro, with him just seeing this place, like it goes without saying, like he just knows right away, though it's clearly not Atlantis, cause different ocean, but even still, it's obvious that Namor is involved. And with the Torch fleeing here, Namor had to be behind the attack. But again, with the Torch thinking that he had just incinerated Maestro, along with much of Los Angeles, and he just responds to Namor asking how it went like, come on, nothing can survive that Nova heat. It's like dropping somebody in the sun. But he really can't confirm the body, and really just off of him saying that it's done, like Namor takes his word for it. But then this overconfident moment by the Human Torch is then interrupted when a huge Thum just goes shaking everything throughout Pacifica. And it's here where they find that Maestro is very much alive and unhappy, to say the least. And with him coming here, he wastes no time to get down to business, like he's looking for Namor, because it's very clear that Namor had sent out that hit. And with Maestro just smashing through these guards like a ton of toy soldiers, he calls out Namor and Namor approaches. And with Namor not only addressing Maestro as Hulk, which is something we know to be a big mistake, but when Namor does this, Maestro quickly corrects him. But Namor also makes the observation that Maestro can breathe underwater, which right there should have been 2 red flags that Namor could have picked up, but he didn't. And to go further, Namor warns Maestro to stand down, to only then get laughed at by Maestro because he's Maestro and he laughs in the face of warnings, which in this moment is clearly a sign of disrespect. So Namor tells him like, if you don't stop laughing, I'm gonna get my guard on you. And it's here where Maestro's more or less like, okay, like he know Namor ain't talking about those guards that Maestro had just scattered all across Pacifica, got the place looking like the bottom of a cup of bubble tea, cause up to this point, those guards didn't even slow him down. But then it's here quickly where Namor's like, nope, I'm talking about my second largest. And really it's here with Namor, with him having Maestro in constraints, to where he believes that he has the upper hand. But with Namor addressing Maestro as Hulk again, and telling Maestro how there was once a time when the 2 of them were allies and they fought together. And it's here where Maestro's like allies, because he recalls Namor and his fellow Illuminati members firing him into space. But when Maestro says this, Namor's son Leonard interjects that his father disagreed with that decision, which is why Namor left the Illuminati, which is true. But also looking back at this, it's kind of funny seeing Patrick Stewart, who had been Professor X at this point back in 2006, but then also seeing Tony Stark looking like Tom Cruise, which we may not have to wait too much longer to see, both together on the big screen in the Illuminati. Like, I would just lose it. But with Namor's son Leonard bringing this up, it's really the short version, because back at the time, Namor really stood up for the Hulk. And even as far to say like Tony Stark had his drinking issues and we didn't throw him into the sun. And on top of that, Namor points out that the Illuminati did not have the same energy for the Scarlet Witch. In this so-called solution for Banner, it was more like they were giving up on him instead of trying to find other solutions. But also with looking back and playing a bit of the advocate, other solutions were tried. Reed Richards had already spoke with the most brilliant scientists that he could find in the world, and they could find no cure. Doctor Strange tried sending the Hulk to the crossroads, and that didn't work either. And on top of that, at one point, Xavier even sat down with Banner, only to find that if Banner could have killed himself, he would have done it long ago. But at the time when Namor saying that he wouldn't stand for this, they cut him off, they took a vote, and the only hand that Namor lifted was one straight to Tony's face. But even then, Namor warned the Illuminati that if they do this, the Hulk will find his way back to Earth, he's gonna kill everybody, and the Hulk is gonna be right. And it's like now, you know, in hindsight, Namor wasn't too far off. But at this point, with Leonard interjecting on behalf of his father, this really only leads to Maestro seeing that Namor has a son and a wife, to where then Maestro tells Namor that he's going to enjoy killing both. But at this point, with what's happening here, which I would say is a bit of poor communication on Namor's part, because for one, with Maestro saying this, you just don't take something like that lightly. But then also at this point in the conversation, with him still calling Maestro Banner, like you really can't expect for him to successfully get a point across, even though Namor admits that he was wrong for trying to send someone to kill him. So even when Namor offers Maestro the invitation to join Pacifica and become allies again by saying, Banner, join Pacifica, let's become allies again. And you could tell right away with Namor saying Banner and allies, like those are two triggering words right there. And so when Namor solicits a response from Maestro by saying, well, Banner, what do you say? And it's here where Maestro tells him the same thing that he's been saying this whole time, that his name is Maestro, as he just breaks out from this creature's tentacles to then just grab one of them and swing this whole monster at Namor. But before Maestro can connect, Leonard then zooms into this fight. And when this happens, Namor tries to tell his son like to stand down, you're not ready for this. But Leonard goes right in and he gets a few really good hits. because obviously Leonard is faster than Maestro, especially underwater. But then quickly for Namor, this creates the situation to where, when somebody you love starts a fight that they cannot win, and then you gotta jump in, and it's like, I wouldn't try to do this, but here we are. And given the situation, Namor orders Leonard to get to safety. But even for Namor in Pacifica, like underwater, with the assistance of his guards and his junior Kragan, these guys are not able to stop the Maestro. And even at a point where it seems like they've gotten him to fall back, Maestro then just turns this whole thing around and it gets real. Because this time when he reaches for the tentacles of this beast, he gets that swing. And when he does, this is when all the slow singing and flower bringing gets to kicking in, as he slams this beast on top of Namor's wife, Numa, as well as his son Leonard, who had died trying to save his mother. And in this moment where Namor rushes to them, only to find that the worst has definitely happened, with him losing his wife and his son. But just seconds later, a shadowy figure just forms behind Namor, because Maestro's like, hey, look at this. This is the perfect time to kill the whole family. And Maestro comes up behind Namor without saying anything, like he's truly on demon time right now. But just before Maestro can send Namor to the upper room family reunion, the Abomination then steps in, holding Maestro back, only for this to then end up in one of those wrestling, the watch out, watch out, watch out moments, with Maestro then just slamming the Abomination into the ground. But Maestro then also mentions here that he remembers that Emil had tried to kill Betty, and he lets the Abomination know that he's itching to pay him back for that. But also at this time, Namor, he wants his payback now. But as Namor goes to drive his trident right through Maestro's face, he is then teleported away along with the Abomination as well as the Human Torch. And right away we see that the three of them were whisked away to Latveria, to where they then pop up in Doom's castle. And with how this happens, it's another moment for Maestro to where he just puts the hints together and he realizes that this had to be Doom. But with the three of these guys being brought to Doom's castle, Doom lets them all know that he had brought them there to get revenge on Maestro. But with Doom attempting to make progress and walk with a cane at this point, his ankle just says nope, and he collapses right in front of these guys, which then just has the three of them looking at Doom like, he should have teleported some ankles up in here, because that's the help that you really need. You're just saying. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below, so you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.